Okay, so we're going to start by looking at the interface itself and how to import and organize assets. First of all, so just the basic panels here. We've got the source panel here. So this is where you view the individual clips that you import into the project panel here. And then we've got the program window here, or panel here, which will show you any sequences that you've started to create on the timeline here. So basically your clips come into here, import into here. You can view them and trim them on here. Then you can drag your clips into the timeline here, which will then make them visible in the program window here. Okay, at the top here we have various interface configurations as well. So we've got assembly. If we click on assembly, this gives you a slightly different display. So assembly really is about organizing clips and assembling them on the timeline here. We've got editing, which speaks for itself really. So that is about then like I said, really two main types of editing are editing things initially by trimming them in the clip in the source window here, but then also by then bringing those clips onto the timeline here, where you can further edit them using various editing tools here. So those are the two main types of editing. We've got the effects view here, which again is to do with applying things like transitions, various effects, video effects, audio effects, and then we've got graphics, which is more to do, obviously speaks for itself, again applying graphics and text and those kind of things. So the other thing in effects is sort of looking at things like color correction and those kind of things. Okay, so we don't have any clips at the moment, so the first thing to do is to import our clips in. Sometimes referred to as assets or clips, kind of interchangeable. So various ways we can do this. We're going to import them into the project panel here initially. So very simply you can right click here, go to import, and then navigate to where your clips are. Now another important point is when you're organizing your clips, so you'll see here I have my clips organized in this stock footage folder here. Okay, so just make sure that you have all your project files together in one place, so they're easy to find, and don't once you've placed them in that folder, don't move them around, because then the Premiere project won't be able to find them. Okay, so make a folder for them, keep them in that folder so the Premiere project is able to find them. So I'm just going to select 3 clips here to bring in. So I control click on those clips, bring them in, and you see now they're visible in the project window here. Okay, so these are visible here. We've got different views here, so we've got the kind of clip view here where we can actually mouse over the individual clips and it'll play a little preview of the clip, which can be quite useful just to remind us what's in there. We've also got, you'll see the clip on the left here has a little icon here that represents audio, so that tells us whether the clip has audio included with it. You see these two don't, the two on the right, but this one does. Again, if we switch to the detail view here, again we can see the clip with the audio as that audio icon there. And this gives us information about frame rate and that kind of thing as well. It's a bit of detail. Now a key thing here is we have our interface and basics project here open, you can see, and these 3 clips we've imported are now part of that project. An important point is that you can have multiple projects open at any one time. So if I go to File and Open, Project, and navigate to, sorry, it's a bit nested here, let me just find another one of my projects. So you can see all my projects are saved here. So say I want to have a look at or work on another project, or maybe bring in, combine elements of 2 projects, I can open another one here. Now just making the point about what I said about a project not being able to find a clip as well. You'll see here that it's not able to find the clips that were part of this project previously. If this happens, what you can do is, if you go to the locate button here, okay, I need to find these two clips because they've been moved. Okay, so remember what I said before about keeping all your clips in one folder. These two clips have been moved out of that folder, so I need to relocate them and tell the project where I've moved them to. So if I go to the locate button here, okay, and then we've got this little browser window opens up here. Now I can navigate to my project folder here. It's a slightly different view, but it's the same, you know, set of folders and files. So if I go into my Premiere Tutorials folder, now I'd moved those clips into that stock footage folder I showed you earlier. So if I go to the stock footage folder, and I can relocate those two clips, okay? So it was these two. Okay, so I'll bring those in one at a time. So that's the first one. And then for the second one, sorry, it was only one clip. Yeah, so that's that clip now has been brought back in. Okay, so the important point here is that you can have multiple projects open in the project window here. So you can see we've got project interface and basics and project my clips here. Okay. Just to mention the media browser tab here, if you've seen the media browser tab, this essentially is another way of navigating to our assets. Okay, so again, if I click on media browser, you can see I can navigate through to my stock footage. It's here somewhere. There we go. Okay, stock footage, there we go. So these are basically different ways of getting to the same place, essentially. Now we're just going to be working on interface and the interface and basics project. So I'm going to close the My Clips project because we're not going to be working on that. So if I right click on that and close project, okay, and then we can just focus on our interface and basics project. Okay, so I'm just going to drag one of the clips onto the timeline here. So just this first clip here. If I drag that onto the timeline, you'll see that we have the video clip and the audio clip. They're combined. And you'll also see that once we do that, it creates another sequence, what's called a sequence here, which has a slightly different icon in the bottom right hand corner. If I switch to detail view here, you can see a sequence is represented using this icon here. Okay. Now if we wanted to apply any effects to this clip, okay, we click on the clip in the timeline and you can see in the source window here, if we click on the effect controls tab, the effect controls tab here, sorry, and just click on the clip again, that will display effects that we can apply to that particular clip. So we've got things like position, scale, rotation, all the, you know, opacity, all the really should be fairly familiar, useful effects to apply, the core effects. Okay, just a final sort of additional point I meant to add earlier about sequences is, as I said before, you have different projects open in the project panel here. So I've got two different projects open, blend modes and interface and importing here. And then I have two sequences here. So the sequences are represented by tabs in the timeline. So it's an important distinction between the sequence, which is in the timeline, and the project, which is in the project panel. When you export media or export your film, you're exporting what's on the timeline, the sequence on the timeline. The project is just where you store all the assets that you may or may not have decided to use in that sequence, but it's the sequence here. So you can see I've got these two tabs that represent two different sequences. So if I click on this tab and go to export, it will export whatever's on the timeline here as a finished film sequence. If I click on this tab here and export, it will export whatever's on this timeline here as a finished sequence or film. So it's just really important to make it clear about that. So you can have multiple sequences open here in different tabs, move between them. Multiple projects open here, and like I said, you can take elements from one sequence and bring them into another sequence, or from one project and bring them to another project. But just to make that important point, that when you export, you're just exporting what's on whichever tab you've got selected and whatever's on the timeline. Okay, so when we're dealing with more than one project, so we've got more than one project in the project window here. We've got this project here with a sequence associated with it, but if I want to make a new sequence associated with this new project, okay, if I click on select the new project tab here and then select the clip that I want to start the sequence with, and if I right click on that, okay, and select new sequence from clip, so right click and new sequence from clip, that will create a new sequence from the clip, okay, and it'll take all the settings from that clip and use them in the new sequence. Okay, I can drag additional clips in. Now, as you can see, this additional clip that I've dragged in is actually, the dimensions are different to the initial clip. Okay, if that happens, what I can do is right click on this clip in the timeline, and if I go to set to frame size, okay, that will resize that clip to the same size as the sequence. Okay. Okay, now you'll see that this new sequence takes the name from the clip here, so if we want to rename the sequence, we can just click on the sequence. So remember, we can identify the sequence by looking at the icon here. Just double click on the text and rename the sequence. Okay,